You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast for people who hated the Iowa Caucus before it was cool. Alyssa, when was the first time you realized you hated the Iowa Caucus?
Erin, in all of the campaigns dating back 20 years at this point, I have never been to the Iowa Caucus.
Congratulations.
I have always been the nut who's like, you know what? I should go to New Hampshire. Yeah. So, but we're past that now. On to the Great Northeast.
Yeah, we are past that, on to the Great Northeast. I gotta say, there's a part of me, and I think there's a part of a lot of people listening who, you know, once the Iowa caucuses are done, they're like, good. I don't need to think about Iowa anymore. And I got to say, it's gone downhill over the course of my lifetime in Iowa as a state.
It has. This is very boring. Well, also, the Republican caucus is very boring. They come in, talk, write their name on a paper, and they're done. There's no like, you know, like with the Democrats, or at least the old way the Democrats did it, was like you go in, you vote, your person doesn't hit the threshold, so you toss your votes to someone else. It's much more animated and dynamic.
Yeah, it's like the New York City mayoral race, but
exactly
with real people. I mean, here's the thing, though. I know I'm being flippant about Iowa, and Iowans, before you send us an angry email, hysteria@crooked.com, before you send us an angry email, I just want to say that you don't actually get to forget about Iowa until 4 years from now. You don't.
Right.
Because it is going to be a matter of weeks before that state's wackadoodle Republican-controlled state government tries to pass something like overturning the 14th Amendment or sending troops to Mexico unilaterally or like invading Illinois. Iowa's state government is not in a great spot right now. And the way that crazy laws become our problem, they go from small red states that you really have no reason to visit unless you're a very gifted writer that gets into the writing workshop. They go from problems within that state to your problem because there is a conservative legal strategy to introduce crazy laws in little states, get them appealed up to the Supreme Court, get the Supreme Court to say, actually, this crazy law is fine, and then it's your problem. So we got to pay attention. If you are an Iowan, you got to pay attention to your state government. If you're not an Iowan, you got to keep an eye on what's going on in Iowa because it might become your problem.
And with that,
yeah, sorry. Nikki Haley. Let's talk about Nikki Haley because we might not have very much more time to talk about Nikki
girl.
Haley. Nikki Haley came in third in the Iowa caucuses on Monday. She was neck and neck with second place Ron DeSantis and a long, long way behind Donald Trump, who was the winner. Both DeSantis and Haley are claiming that they're trouncing at the golf shoes of Trump. Is good, actually. Both of them are saying, you know, second and third place actually is a little bit like winning. But it should also be noted that due to inclement weather, something like 14% of Iowa Republicans voted in the caucuses, which means that Donald Trump got about 7% of Iowa Republicans. And from that, we are extrapolating that Donald Trump has a lot of momentum.
A lot of support.
A lot of support. So, you know, next week we're going to be talking about America's fourth whitest state, New Hampshire. We're going to be moving up from Iowa, America's eighth whitest state. And these two states, for some reason, still determine the direction that we have decided the election is going. But let's talk about Nikki Haley. Haley actually has a shot to win in New Hampshire, and that would make her the first Republican woman to win a state-level primary. Alyssa, does that matter?
Sure. It's great, right? I mean, because, well, Republicans care about women so much, I'm sure they're going to put her on a coin or a dollar bill or something at some point. No, I mean, you know, I think it's good. It's better than them never having a woman win a primary. So, yay, Nikki. If she actually wins.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Here's something that sort of is like irksome is the way that, and this has always been bothersome to me because it doesn't make any sense, just like as a concept, momentum, the idea of momentum.
Momentum's a lie.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Okay. To me, a layperson who has a podcast with her dear friend, momentum is something that was devised by cable news back in 2004. That's like, people believe if people are saying she's got momentum, it makes it more exciting. Like right now, Donald Trump becoming the nominee is essentially a fait accompli. Like it's going to be really fucking hard for anyone to stop him. But by saying, but Nikki's got momentum, well, people are going to tune into New Hampshire. They're going to see what's going on. It might drive voter turnout because people, like, you know, if people think that the delta between she and Trump is so big that, you know, why bother going out? They don't want that. So like momentum, because they want to build the story. I mean, Erin, let us just rewind to 2004. John Kerry cruising along, doing great. All of a sudden, Howard Dean has momentum. John Kerry dead in the water going into Iowa. And then what happens? All that momentum, in air quotes, that Howard Dean had in theory was undone by one scream when he was listing a bunch of states and he was like, "Rah! Rah!" And that killed his momentum. How can momentum be real if that can kill momentum?
Yeah. Is it a sound? Is it a sound that a sound can kill? I think, you know, it sort of reminds me of that. You bring up a good point that the media's best interests are served by making people think that they need to keep tuning into the media.
By there being a race.
Exactly. And I think that's why we hear a lot of horse race politics, a lot of stuff that is sort of kind of political astrology, as we and not to like insult astrology here, but something that is sort of like taking a look at a bunch of factors that may or may not have bearing on the future and trying to predict the future. And I also think it reminds me a little bit of, you know, when you're watching a football game and it's like the end of the third quarter and the score, let's say it's like the Packer-Cowboy game.
Okay,
Yeah. And like the Packers are up so much that there is no way that the Cowboys are going to win. And there gets to a point where the announcers start to sound a little bored, you know?
100%. Erin, this is the perfect analogy for political momentum.
Yes, exactly. We're at the point where there is no longer a case to be made, I think, for pundits to say like, okay, well, you know, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. It becomes a little bit more and more transparently an attempt to keep people tuning in when it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I guess people want to make their jobs more interesting by.
I mean, I would too. I would if this look for us, it is obviously more interesting if there's an actual race, because if there is an actual race, then people have to talk about actual policies and you have to be actually compared.
Right.
But right now, I mean, I gotta say, Nikki, baller move being like, I'll debate Trump, but not DeSantis. I already did it. I mean, I'm like, all right. That is the first time I've been like, all right, let's see where this goes. I was very interested. I didn't think Trump would debate her, but I did think it was a play and it worked.
It was a savvy move. Yeah. Nikki Haley has refused to do any more Republican debates unless Trump participates. And as a result, the debate that was supposed to take place this Thursday, the 18th, is no longer going to happen. Yeah. Nobody wants to listen to Ron DeSantis talk for an hour and a half.
I mean, I think we can all agree DeSanctimonious is, in fact, the correct nickname.
Yeah. By the way, I was listening to NPR the other morning and they started pronouncing it Ron DeSantis, which they weren't doing before.
Because they've become confused because they've heard DeSanctimonious too many times.
No, I think it's because it sounds like Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis, our drag queen name.
Maybe. Rhonda.
Yeah, Ron DeSantis. So unless they take a moment to pause and say Ron DeSantis, it sounds like they're calling him Ron DeSantis.
That's perfect.
I know.
You're right. I had not thought about that, but it does sound like Ron DeSantis.
Yeah. Okay, and that's how Donald Trump says it, so it's extra funny. So I just kind of want to talk a little bit about the way that Nikki Haley has run her campaign, and the way that her fellow Republican candidates have kind of handled her. Like, there's definitely been some sexism, and I hate to sort of be like, wee sexism, you know, and run to the defense of a person who, if given the opportunity, would gladly sign away the rights of millions of women. But I do hate Ron DeSantis. And I think that he deserves to be called out when he is doing some sexism. DeSantis's allies and spokespeople and people who kind of are in the media talking for him have compared her to Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
I mean, but what's similar, Ron? What do they have in common? What's similar?
people who get mammograms.
I mean, if Nikki Haley got a mammogram and announced that she gets mammograms and everybody should get mammograms, I would find that a very respectable move.
I agree with that.
But I think, honestly, woman like other woman is like a silly, stupid, sexist thing. But it also brings up the fact that Nikki Haley is a Republican woman. She has laid down her lot with people who don't really think that she's fully a human being because she's a woman.
And she's willing to maybe capitulate. She's willing to yield a little bit of that just to be able to try to do this.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. I think that there is an undercurrent among conservative women who believe that if they align themselves with conservative men and want conservative men to have power, then they will be protected from the things that conservative men do to other women. So if they align themselves, but they're not. They're not. The second that you are
hilarious.
Yeah. The second that you're an inconvenience to them, the second that you stand between them and something that they want, they will absolutely do to you what they would do to any woman who is as far outside of their ideal compliant woman that you can imagine.
Question. Without question. Donald Trump has gone from Nikki Haley, so loyal, she was at the UN, did so much, to she's a bad negotiator, she begged for the job, she's unreliable, she's incompetent. So like, girl, what do you think everyone else is going to do to you when this is over?
Yeah, it's just like...
Except Ron DeSantis, though, too. I mean, like, I'm not saying Trump is subtle, he's the opposite. But Ron DeSantis is the essence of like a guy who preps for a debate and is just trying to make fetch happen.
That is so fetch. Gretchen, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Like when I was listening to the debate last week or earlier this week, whenever the fuck it was, and he just kept saying the pastel colors of Nikki Haley. We need bold colors. We need bold colors. Nikki Haley's all pastel colors. And I was like, oh my God, that's the best you can do?
Also, what? Grow up, you fucking baby. If you're a man who can't handle pastel colors, like, or
the pale
anything,
pastels is what he kept saying.
I bet he's a person who won't eat yogurt unless it comes in black packaging and it's called like dick cream or something like that. You know, like,
I was going to say Dan and fruit on the bottom, but okay.
No. I mean, but this is something that you know, every once in a while you go to the grocery store or you see a product marketed and you're like, why is this marketed for men in such an ugly, weird, clunky way? Why can't men just take the thing, like Diet Coke?
Yeah,
why can't men just drink
normal?
Diet Coke? No, we got to put in a black can, Coke Zero. No, it's Diet Coke with a different type of artificial sweetener that is being marketed to men because men don't want to do things that women like to do because they are afraid that somehow breaching the like hard.
They're not dudes anymore.
Yeah, they're gay now. Like it's so. So stupid, but
he's exhausting.
Men like Ron DeSantis are literally why there has to be separate men's and women's body wash because it's like
when really everyone smelling like eucalyptus is just fine.
It's absolutely just not like, who cares? You're not gonna grow a vagina by using soap that is not scented like Axe body spray.
Oh,
you're
so
not going to
gross.
grow a vagina by having a female president. And that's the thing, though. I think that undercurrent, I'm not going to say that like, oh, yeah, all progressive and liberal men are not sexist, which totally false. You and I know very well. Not whole other thing. But the sort of blatant fragile masculinity, I cannot do anything girly or it threatens my manhood, that runs much more strongly.
Yeah.
In conservative circles. And so I think that, you know, there's been some chatter. We've joked around while crying, about the possibility that the first female president in the U.S. could be a woman, like a Margaret Thatcher type figure, which I think is altogether possible. But I also think that there's a pretty high hurdle for Nikki Haley or for any Republican woman in the future to clear. And that is the fact that undergirding American conservatism now more than ever is an anti-woman patriarchal belief that women should not be in charge of things and in fact should not even be able to control their own lives. So somehow if a woman is able to navigate the mental gymnastics necessary for millions of people to just give her power, even though no other women deserve power. I guess I will be impressed by that, but stranger things have happened.
Well, right, because it's like, really, for all intents and purposes, if there were to be a Republican woman who in theory should be the first Republican president, Liz Cheney.
The first female president would be, yeah.
Right? If that's how it were to shake out. But they couldn't, the Republicans couldn't handle her. They were like, she's too much. She's just too much. And so,
but
here we are.
It's, I think that the only model or the most viable model here would be like the Phyllis Schlafly model. A woman who her full-time job was traveling around the country talking about how women should stay home with their kids while someone else stayed home with her kids.
When she really was doing all this because all she wanted was a job at the Department of Defense.
Whoa, that's not very girly. That's going to, you know what? A girl works at the Department of Defense. That's going to be, they're going to collect the dicks day one. Put them in a big basket of dicks. Right at the door of the Department of Defense. No, you can't have chicks working at the Department of Defense. Are you kidding, Phyllis?
And so she never did.
Can I just say I'm glad. Let me finish this sentence before you react. I'm glad that Phyllis Schlafly died believing that Hillary Clinton would be president. She died in like June 2016 or July 2016. I think that when she died, she believed that Hillary Clinton was going to be the president.
I think you're right.
I love that for her.
That is dark. But also true.
I mean, that's the least that she deserved after she almost single-handedly torpedoed the Equal Rights Amendment. She sucked. She sucked. Let's talk about the E Jean Carroll trial. Is there anything new to talk about, Alyssa?
Speaking of sucking.
Yeah.
Oh, Erin, as you know, and listeners can probably tell, I am not feeling my best today. I'm a little congested. And
you got the double COVID.
I got the COVID. And
it's happening to everybody now.
It's around. People, do not sleep on it. It is not, I am feeling struck pretty hard, but because of this, I
can't believe you're
sleep.
here today. I can't believe
I would
you're
never
here today.
leave you. I would never leave you. Ever.
This is like seriously commitment.
We have never, you see, I just got it yesterday. I just started feeling badly yesterday. But you did the show when you were like 3 days into COVID. You weren't great. This is just what we do.
That's true. This is what we do.
This is what we do.
Our brains are Swiss cheese.
And
we
this
are here,
is what we do.
We are here talking about very important topics.
Very important. And I couldn't sleep. And so I have been up watching the E Jean Carroll trial today. As we record here on Wednesday, E Jean Carroll has been on the stand for hours testifying against Donald Trump. Donald Trump attended the defamation trial yesterday in New York. He sat about 10 feet away from E Jean. He was found responsible for sexually abusing her in the 90s in a civil trial. Trump was in the courtroom for jury selection yesterday, but left right before opening statements began to go to a campaign rally in New Hampshire. Make no mistake, these are nothing but campaign events for him. He knows that he will be on TV, Erin. That is what this is. A lot of cable networks are not carrying him, and so he's using all these trials up and down the East Coast to get on TV and have people see him, to portray himself as a victim. Now, he and E Jean had not been in the same room for decades. So I personally have a stomach ache for her. I could not imagine how hard it was for her to have to be in the room with him after all these years. He was not present when her attorney, Sean Crowley, told the jury how Trump had upended E Jean's life, that they needed to return a verdict large enough to make him stop targeting her. E Jean testified that he's robbed her of any sense of safety or security, that he has shattered her reputation. As president, he used the world's largest bully pulpit to target her, and now he's claiming she's clearly good at public relations and is benefiting. He believes she is benefiting, Erin, from this courtroom fiasco.
First of all, E Jean Carroll is I kind of love her style
Brave
of writing.
Bitch.
Yeah, but I also love her as a writer.
Totally.
It's like very, I don't want to say like throwbacky in a condescending way, but it's sort of like harkens back to this kind of like sassy 90s style writing. not Sassy Magazine, but like, you know, women's magazines in the 90s that had a sort of like edge and attitude to them. Her Substack is a lot of fun. And she's, I think, really tough. The fact that she's gone through all of this and that she filed a second lawsuit after she won in the first one, and is like, okay. It reminds me of that scene at the end of or during Breakfast Club when Judd Nelson's character keeps shouting and the principal keeps increasing his detention.
Yeah.
You just bought yourself another Saturday, mister. Crushed. You just bought one more right there.
That's totally sort of legally
another
what is
great analogy.
But, you know, maybe we'll get a cool Breakfast Club style movie out of it.
One thing that's either later today or tomorrow, depending on how the court case goes, E Jean Carroll will be cross-examined by Trump's attorneys, which you can only imagine how horrible that is for her. But we can hope that they go way too far, as they always do, and end up painting her as highly credible, and that she gets the additional $10 million in compensatory and punitive damages that she is seeking.
So I have a question. Which lawyers are these? Is this the glass gargler, or is he like, where are the lawyers running around?
That like, you ask that, because I actually tried figuring that out and could not get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. I mean, he's got such a vast legal team. I wonder if,
but does he? Like,
I mean, he
that's the
has
thing.
to. He's got stuff going on in Georgia. He's got stuff going on in DC. He's got two things going on in New York right now. It's like, you can't, I mean, if he does not have separate lawyers on every trial, he's probably racking up a lot of, like, they're probably racking up airline status, flying in between all the court.
Well, because you know he's not going to pay them, so it's not like they're getting rich off of this.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder what's in it for them. Maybe they've all committed crimes and he's promised to pardon them after he becomes president again.
We just got a live update from Caroline, who is getting updates from the trial. And just moments ago, the judge asked Trump to keep his voice down when conferring with his lawyers in front of the jury. What a menace to society.
Oh, my God.
I mean, but I'm not laughing because he could reasonably be president. And so, you know.
Update number 2. Trump is reacting physically and loudly to Carroll's testimony. God. Honestly, it sounds like the Salem witch trials when the like girls were screaming when, you know, Goody Proctor or whatever was like on the stand.
Yeah.
He just, what a baby. Do we want somebody that's that emotionally dysregulated as president?
No, he really cannot. He cannot be trusted. He's too emotional.
I think he is way too emotional and dysregulated. I'm going to use therapy speak.
Dysregulated, it's a great word.
Yeah, he's emotionally dysregulated, but that is not what you want in a leader. It's not what you want in somebody that you sit next to on an airplane. It's not what you want in a person.
In any profession.
No, a person that's ahead of you, picking up a prescription at CVS. He's just not fit for society. In general. Yeah. Gross. Okay. So finally, rounding out news today. It's been a minute since we've done a deeper dive into the state of trans rights in the U.S. So there's like attempts to curtail them. There's attempts to defend them, and where both efforts stand in the cold molasses that is our court system. So a lot of the states that we're about to talk about are kind of the usual suspects when it comes to opposing bodily autonomy. A lot of places that have anti-trans laws working their way through the system are also first in line to restrict access to health care for women, reproductive health care. It is a through line controlling the bodies of people who the patriarchy believes should be controlled. So it's important to remember that state level fuckery, like we said earlier in the show, is what gets escalated through the courts to the Supreme Court. So that's why we have to pay attention to these things, even though it is unpleasant. Okay. So this week, the Missouri legislature is hearing 7 anti-trans bills that attempt to legalize bathroom bans and healthcare discrimination. I just want to point out the things that people in Missouri are not taking care of. There's a public education crisis in that state.
Yep.
And lawmakers are not doing jack shit to address that.
No, but there are 7 anti-trans bills.
7 anti-trans bills, and several of them relate to bathroom bans. So they're not really concerned with like keeping schools open and functional 5 days a week, but they are making sure that if the schools are not condemned buildings, trans kids cannot use the bathrooms of their gender.
Right.
It is ridiculous. Similarly, last week, West Virginia introduced 9 new anti-trans bills, one of which would prevent gender-affirming care access until the age of 21. And to the age of 21, after people are legal adults
and can drink
and can go be in the army,
do whatever. Yeah, exactly. You could have been in the army for years.
You can sacrifice your body to the United States of America, but you cannot make a decision about your body when it comes to...
Also, maybe they should focus on the opioid crisis.
No, West Virginia is famously one of the states with the fewest problems. Famously. Oh, Alyssa's holding a cat like a child.
He's a chunky baby. He's missed Hysteria. He had to come. He came in early today.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, he's got opinions on the problems in West Virginia.
He does. He's mad.
He's pretty mad about it. Yeah, I mean, this is something that we've talked about a lot, but every state that is trying this fuckery is using finite and precious time to focus on this rather than real problems. Okay? So they're not fixing anything. They're not helping you. They're not doing anything for anybody.
There's nothing.
They're
doing nothing of value.
Nothing of value. They're auditioning for unpaid hits on Fox News because their lives are so empty. So empty. And they were raised with not enough attention or too much attention.
Clearly.
And they're making it all of our problems now. It is truly egregious. And also, come on, man. You're picking on the most disenfranchised group, possibly, in the U.S.
Right. Just let people be.
Why
does it hurt you so much? Why does it hurt you personally so much, lawmakers who should be doing other things, to let people just be?
My God. The other day I was in a public park in LA and I was going to go use the women's bathroom. And, public restrooms in public parks can sometimes be a little bit sketchy.
Yeah.
And I was about to go into the women's room and I was like, I don't know, is this going to be safe? And then I had this thought about how lawmakers have invented this scenario where if they allow trans people to use the bathrooms that match their gender identity, men will hide in the women's bathroom and attack. But
when they can hide anyway.
Not otherwise. I was just like, look, there is no psycho in the city of Los Angeles that would see a sign that's like, oh, wait, I can't go into that bathroom and wait and attack people.
I want to commit murder, but I shouldn't go in that bathroom.
I'm going to follow the signs. The statute says that I must go into the bathroom that matches my gender assigned or my gender assigned at birth. So I'm sorry, ladies, I'm going to have to attack you from these bushes instead of the bathroom. It's dumb. It's so dumb. It makes me feel like I've been breathing too quickly, lightheaded. It is like a lightheaded stupid. And then in Ohio, some trans candidates are trying to run for office, but they're getting disqualified or challenged because there's this rusty, rickety old law from the 1920s that requires candidates to include any name changes on petitions that would get them on the ballot. So this was
not communicated.
Not communicated to candidates and sort of cruel to trans people to force them to use their dead name on applications to run for public office. Why is that relevant?
The cruelty is the point.
The cruelty is the point. I think I can see a world in which it would be relevant if somebody changed their name after a criminal conviction. And you want
you want to start life fresh.
Right. But you also want to know that about your elected officials. But I think that could be specifically written into the law. If you changed your name for, after
crimes.
Yeah, for crimes. Maybe you shouldn't be running for office at all. I don't know. I'm just spitballing laws here. And they seem more well thought out than a lot of laws in the states of West Virginia and Missouri. Let's move on to something worthy of tepid applause.
Okay.
The Supreme Court has dodged having to make a federal-wide decision about bathroom bans.
Thank God.
Yeah. So there is a school district in Indiana that had attempted to force its students to use bathrooms that matched their sex assigned at birth.
Right.
So trans students weren't allowed to use a bathroom that matched their current gender expression. They were sued. A lower court said that actually the school can't do that. And the Supreme Court decided to not hear the case, which means the lower court ruling stands, which means that ban can't be enforced, which I think is good.
We'll take it.
we'll take it. I mean, it's like non-action by the Supreme Court, but the standards
but it's
and
good. It's a lot of these things. It's like, please just
the expectations are so low that it's like,
I know.
Honestly, Clarence Thomas not coming out and being like, no more women talking would like is like okay, wow, that's actually great. Thanks, guys. A couple of little heartwarming stories. Pedro Pascal, America's boyfriend, I would think now.
He's cute.
Everybody loves him. Everybody loves a Pedro Pascal. I don't want to hear any bad stories about him.
No, keep him to yourself if you have him. We don't want him.
Just for the next like month. I just want to hold him in my heart as like just this wonderful celebrity who does nice things and is really good at his job. He brought his trans sister to the Emmys and they looked super adorable. Plus, Yosha Iglesias is the first out trans woman to become an international chess master.
Killing it.
That's fun. Queen's Gambit season 2.
Can you play chess?
I can. Should I is the operative question. The answer is no.
One of those things I've been thinking of taking up.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating. It requires a lot of like catastrophizing. Actually, if you're a person who's really good at catastrophizing, you would be good at chess because you have to think about all the different ways that things can go wrong. That's chess. Think about all the different ways that things can go wrong.
Here's the thing. I am good at that, but I actually don't think I should tap into that side of myself.
Yeah, it might cause you a little bit of anxiety. But it is like a nice, if you play with somebody whose energy matches yours and you're sort of like nobody's getting too worked up about it, it can be fun.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, there's something really satisfying about like moving the pieces, like on
I agree.
A
that's
marble.
What is interesting me in all this. I'm like, oh, maybe.
Yeah. You should try it and report back. You're going to start a chess business. Alyssa's 3 Dancing Bears chess.
You just wait.